Houston Cougars, a furious comeback to knock off Duke and advance to the national championship game.
Here is Zion Chris, big hole, open sesame. Zion Chris, wow, the 72-yard house call.
Stick it in your pipe and smoke it, baby. Yes!
Welcome to the Scott Holman Podcast, back here mid-April, really in the sweet spot of a lot of spring sports stuff to talk about. We got men's basketball, the roster finally taking shape there. I think I can comfortably speak for you, Bobby, and saying that we're both really excited to talk about the newest Cougars and kind of use that as a springboard to start envisioning what the coming season looks like. A team that will look different, but one, again, I feel comfortable in speaking for both of us and saying that we're pretty excited about. We're going to talk about the second favorite sport of Texas, spring football. I think I've reliably made that joke, Bobby, at least 10 of the 11 seasons we've done the show, but we're going to spend the next few to several weeks talking various spring football topics as we're in kind of the spring football time of the year. Cougar spring football is about to wrap this week, so we're going to talk about a coming season narrative-y kind of topic that we've both discussed between each other, just as Cougar fans who sometimes like to talk about sports. So plenty there, football, men's basketball stuff, obviously, but the usual spring sports happenings that we always find time to talk about here as well, including a couple sports near and dear to Bobby and I who just concluded their regular seasons. We're going to find time to talk about those as well. Bobby, you have returned fully intact from the great white north back to us stateside, back in the great state of Texas. How are we doing, friend?
Good, man. Good to, anytime you go from 80 degrees to 20 degrees to 50 degrees back to 80 degrees, you just get a little bit of just like stuff in your head. So I'm kind of dealing with that a little bit. Not quite a complete flu game here, but just I'm drugged up. We're feeling pretty good. You know what I mean?
Exactly. No performance enhancing limitations on podcasters. Thankfully, nobody's gonna come to you 5 minutes after you log out of the StreamYard asking you for a sample, Bobby.
Yeah, number one question is, how did you get in my apartment if that does happen?
Hey man, the International Podcast Doping Authority is very serious. Steer us back on track as I steer us off track. Quickly, we'll mention at the top, thank you to those of you that support us through the Patreon. I should thank you all first before also advertising that if you'd like to support the work that Bobby and I do on a weekly basis, talking about Cougar sports in season, talking about Cougar sports off season when fitting, as well, internet's longest running Houston Cougar sports podcast. If you like to support the work that we do, in addition to getting access to premium episodes, we will probably be having, not the coming season's men's basketball roster is taking shape, a little premium deep dive on what the coming men's basketball roster will look like sooner than later. Any of that sounds good to you, go to patreon.com/SHpodcast. Well, we're going to lead with some Cougar men's basketball portal stuff because we've been talking about the outgoings here in the past couple weeks. We finally, within the last week, have some new Cougar men's basketball players to talk about. Last weekend and today, we had a total of 3 players commit to the Cougar men's basketball program under Kelvin Sampson. And I think it's good for us as we get the withdrawals from the college basketball season, still like less than 2 weeks removed from the championship game, less than 3 weeks removed from there being actual Cougar men's basketball that we talked about, but unfortunately just over 6.5 months away until we actually have a return to on-court action as we sit tonight. But we got our first 3 confirmed transfer commits in the rough order they officially committed to the Cougars. Delrecco Gillespie, a big man who played the last 4 seasons at Kent State. Dedan Thomas Jr., a point guard from LSU who started his career at UNLV. And today, the most recent one, Corey Hadnot II of IPFW. And also, before that, Cy Creek in the northwest side of the Houston area. A lot to be excited about when it comes to each of those 3 guys and how they project to fit onto the next season's team. Bobby, give me your thoughts on the newest members of the program.
Yeah, I kind of started with Dedan Thomas. Really good score. That was kind of the first thing that jumped out to me. Just kind of going through his stats and whatnot. Just puts the ball in the bucket. Watching his tape, it's hard not to be very impressed with what you saw from him. The thing I liked the most was that he didn't turn it over. I think it was around a 4-1. I think it's like 3 point something. High 3 points to 1 assist to turnover ratio, which you can only imagine gets Coach Sampson pretty excited. We there were times last year, you and I discussed it on this podcast, where there were definitely moments where we turned the ball over maybe a little bit too much last year in some games, and those are the games where you found yourself in trouble. Not that I'm like breaking some crazy news here and giving some deep analysis here. With you turn the ball over a lot, it doesn't end well for you. But anybody who can get you those assists and can find the open guy, that gets you excited a little bit. The other thing that really kind of stood out, just kind of watching tape, it's hard to find tape on people just because like we don't buy the all 10 or whatever they call it. We don't those are hard to find in college basketball, especially at like a lower level like this. But just some of the highlights you saw, even though he's a little undersized at 6'1", he just got buckets, man. He was able to get to the bucket. I think this year or this past season, one of the things that you sometimes saw with this team is you settled for the mid-range jumper. I think you and I talked about it. And U of H was almost dead last in the country in distance on a 2-point field goal. So the fact Dedan was able to get to the bucket and not just blow past guys, right? You see that a lot of times with smaller guys. They're just able to just blow past guys and they're just faster. He was able to take the body, take the contact, draw some fouls, and get to the bucket. So just some amazing stuff there. If I had to pick a concern with him, it would probably be his 3-point percentage. I think he shot just a hair over 30% this year. But him getting hurt, only playing 16 games.
He also doesn't take a lot of threes either. Like it's not like he's volume shooting.
Yeah, so you just kind of look and maybe you have a little bit of concern with that, but I think he's probably going to be somebody who plays the point for us. And when he played at UNLV, he got buckets, man. He shot at 36% from 3, and from a guy who, to your point, Tim, isn't a bulk shooter and doesn't just jack up threes. He's no Emmanuel Sharp, just putting up lots of threes. Yeah, I think it's hard not to get excited about him.
Yeah, the most he took in a season was 90 his freshman season at UNLV, and that's by the games he played, just a little under 3 per game. So he'll take them, but not going to be probably even top 2 guys trying from deep in your lineup. I think it's probably going to be more Mercy's game specifically from deep. I think what I really liked about, and this maybe more specifically applies to the first 2 commitments that we found out about this weekend, but I would say applies just as much. You can group Corey Hadnot II in with those 3 guys. What jumped out to me is all of those guys are just such obvious fits for Kelvin Sampson's UH program. Like you don't look at each of the 3 and you think, I'm not sure like what that guy can do here. And you're like, oh yeah, like it kind of makes sense. Like they didn't play here prior to the coming season, but all 3 of them as guys coming from other programs, like they make sense. Like they seem to fit the general profile that if you've been following this program for a while that you have in your head of what a U of H transfer looks like. If you start with Thomas, so I'll start with Gillespie here. He led all of Division I in double doubles, grabbing at least 10 points and 10 boards in 22 of Kent State's games total. Was a first team all MAC selection, all MAC defensive honors as well. And he's a development guy, 0-star recruit from like Southwest Michigan, went to high school in Georgia, but was able to get on the court as a bench guy in his freshman season, got hurt fairly early in his sophomore year, hence why he has a chance to play this 5th season at U of H. And then by conference play in his 3rd season in the Kent State program, he works his way into being a starter. And now in the most recent season, one of the best players from any position in the MAC. I think if you put that guy with a little bit better team around him, you're talking about someone who probably gets more serious burn as MAC player of the year. Whereas, I mean, like, sorry, Akron and Kent State, Akron and Miami, Ohio, it's probably going to be a guy from one of those programs when it's all said and done. Don't expect Gillespie to average 17 plus points and 11 boards against Big 12 opponents like he did this most recent season in the MAC. But was an elite defensive rebounder his last 2 years at Kent, and at least a very good offensive rebound each year over that same period. I think what I'm most intrigued about, though, when it comes to Gillespie's game is that he was 104th in the country in fouls drawn per 40 minutes, 153rd in free throw rate in that most recent season, shot over 200 free throws in 32 games, making a hair under 79% of them. I mean, we could be honest, this most recent U of H team was a very good team in many areas, but they weren't great at drawing fouls, weren't great. I think free throw rate was the worst of any Sampson team since he's gotten here. And that's not the be all end all. I mean, 2 seasons ago, you also weren't a great free throw rate team and you almost won the whole thing. So it's not necessarily a fatal flaw, but I think it hurts you against the best of the best opponents in the most recent season. And if you could be a little bit better there, I think that makes you, along with all the things that we take for granted that a Sampson team is going to do, a really tough out. Because you've been good at a lot of things, but you haven't really been good at getting opponents in foul trouble, getting to the charity stripe. Like you've had good free, like LJ Cryer and Emmanuel Sharp, great free throw shooters, but not guys who they would do it occasionally, but it wasn't the biggest part of their game, if that makes sense. In terms of the physical tools, big wingspan guy, something Kelvin Sampson, the staff really prioritizes. And I think a big underpinning reason why the Cougs are so consistently excellent at taking the ball away and blocking shots. It's fair to expect an adjustment for Gillespie going from the MAC to the Big 12, but I mean, it's not untrodden ground to see guys jump from the level of the MAC to the level of a top 2 or 3 at worst conference like the Big 12. Like it's happened plenty. I think at worst, he's a good role player and obviously not the pro prospect that Chris Sinak was, but sometimes it's good to have 22, 23-year-old guys in the roster. I mean, I think exhibit A of that, I mean, obviously 2 seasons ago now, the team that beat Duke in the Final Four and came very close to winning it all, extremely veteran team. But I think another good example, the 21-22 season where you lost Sasser and Tremont Mark early, I think why that team made a run to the Elite Eight is they were just those guys, Tajay Moore, Kyler Edwards, a slightly younger but still veteran J1, a Jamal Shed, who I think always played a bit older in his years as a sophomore. Like you were a very veteran team. Like you weren't the most talented, but you beat that super young Arizona team because you were a veteran team. You weren't like loaded with pro prospects, but you were a tough veteran team that bought into what Kelvin Sampson likes to do. And I think that could be the potential for this year's team. It is funny to finally talk, by the way, about Dedan Thomas Jr. here, because he's been one of those players we've been hearing about, kind of whispered connections to U of H. I think credible whispers for years. You were one of the finalists for Thomas during his high school recruitment out of the Las Vegas Valley. And speaking as someone who's lived here now for a little over 6 years, it was a big Vegas local sports story when he committed to UNLV. His father had played in the early 90s there under the legend Jerry Tarkanian, and he was a big recruit. I mean, and this is a guy who graduated after his junior year. He enrolled at UNLV the same age as a senior in high school. So he is a young senior, like relative to guys playing their 4th year of college, not unlike JoJo Tugler, who didn't miss or graduate early from high school, but JoJo was very young for his class and was the number 34 player in the entire class of 2023, came out of high school with a higher rating than other recent Vegas Valley standouts like Milos Uzan and Pop Isaacs, though unlike both those guys, Thomas actually played his entire prep career locally and didn't go to an out-of-state prep school. Like I mentioned, graduated high school year early, enrolled at UNLV at 17 years old, and played 2 seasons there. I would say his freshman season was probably the best UNLV team since I moved here. They made the NIT quarterfinals. They had legitimately very good wins over Creighton, San Diego State. They beat New Mexico when they were really good. I think that was Richard Pitino's second to last year there. They beat them twice. Colorado State when they were an NCAA tournament team, but also had equal number of completely inexplicable losses, like losing to Southern in their season opener at home. And they lost to Air Force when Air Force was just absolutely terrible at home as well. Thomas was just barely outside the top 100 nationally in assist rate. Both of those seasons at UNLV would have been top 5 nationally at his most recent season at LSU if he had played enough games to qualify for that. Left UNLV after they fired their coach Kevin Kruger, and then leaving LSU after they fired Matt McMahon. And I saw the general review from some LSU fans online was just like, yeah, he was pretty good, but if he had been healthy all season, we wouldn't have Will Wade now, which to me is an acknowledgement that Dedan was LSU's best player and probably would have had a good season had he been healthy. And I thought when you said my biggest concern about him, I thought you were going to go the health there, because missed a decent chunk of this season. I'm not saying it's a massive concern for me. It's notable. Missed a decent chunk of this season with a foot injury. Suffered it right around the end of 2025. Tried to come back a few weeks into January, and then just ultimately had to have season-ending surgery, and also missed the very end of his sophomore season at UNLV with a shoulder injury. I believe missed the last 7 games of that one. But I think separate injuries, it's not like, oh, he's repeatedly having issues with a knee or his back or a groin. I mean, shoulder injury and foot injury, 2 pretty separate things, and doesn't guarantee in the future it's going to be an issue. From what it sounds like, Thomas is pretty far along in the rehab and should be available when the team's offseason program starts. So exciting. I mean, it clearly didn't line up last year for Thomas and U of H when there was a good chance that Milos Uzan would and ultimately did return, and excited to finally see him in the Sampson staff link up.
Yeah, super excited about that. You mentioned a lot about Gillespie. Definitely showed last year when he finally got a ton of minutes this past season that the MAC probably wasn't where he needs to be playing. He probably could really benefit from moving up a level and getting that kind of experience as well. Averaged a double-double, which is just an insane thing to think. 4th in the country in rebounds per game. Like you said earlier that it was all perfect when you saw it. You were like, oh yeah, those are Sampson fits. Yeah, man, Gillespie can't be more of a Sampson fit if he tried. You could see him starting, but you also have a chance to use him off the bench when inevitably JoJo Tugler gets into a little bit of foul trouble. I think you're going to have 3 solid big men this year that all could be starters, and I don't necessarily think you're going to start 3 big men, but it's clear Sampson wants to have that like three big rotation that he can kind of lean on and lean into a little bit, and you really see that. So you also mentioned that this is he may not be as pro ready or as polished as Sinak was, but I definitely think, and this isn't to like take a shot at this guy, but I think he's better than Khalifa Sacco was when he came in last year, right?
Oh yeah.
And
I mean, Sacco wasn't even averaging double digits at Sam.
Yeah, so I mean, Sacco gave you a lot of height and everything, but you upgraded your third. You've upgraded your third big this offseason, I would say, right? Even if you don't believe that the recruit coming in is going to play, a start or anything like that, but you have 3 big men, and I think the 2 that are incoming are going to be an upgrade over Sacco and being that third big man. And we saw last year there were times where I thought Sacco was really good, but there were times when Sacco came in and you needed him to just be a body on the floor, and he did that. I think with Gillespie, you're going to get a little bit more than just be a body on the floor and play it safe for us.
Yeah, not to get ahead of ourselves here, might have a 4th big man along with Gillespie, Tugler, and someone you alluded to, Arifan Diane coming in with the freshman class. Yeah, whether you think it's Diane or whether you think it's Gillespie is going to be the 3rd big man, like, again, love Khalifa Sacco, but yeah, I would say either of those guys in the short and long term is probably going to be a bit more well-rounded than him. We also had today, a little bit, I think, within a couple hours of us recording here, Corey Hadnot II, who had played the previous 3 seasons. I almost called them IPFW. Apparently their name now is just Purdue Fort Wayne. Like, apparently IUPUI is now IU Indy, and IPFW
I did
is
know
now
that.
Purdue Fort Wayne. I was a little late to the style guide here, but played the last 3 seasons for, and this is probably the best name among Division I college basketball, the Mastodons of Purdue Fort Wayne.
It is a good name.
For the last 3 seasons. Kind of bench guy-ish his first 2 seasons, not really a standout, really had a breakout 25-26 season, averaged 20.4 points per game and shot 59% on 2-pointers despite being a super high volume shooter. First team All Horizon League selection, KenPom's top rated Horizon League player, a guy originally from, I believe, Atlanta, but played high school ball in Houston, the same district as JoJo Tugler, I believe, at Cy Creek High on the northwest greater Houston area. Everything about Hadnot's game to me screams guy who transfers up to a high major late in his college career. And I think it's a really ideal situation to have him potentially pushing Mercy Miller and or Chase McCarty for a roster spot. Pretty confident Dedan Thomas is your starting point guard. And I'm pretty confident your front court is Tugler and Delrecco Gillespie. And then from there, I think those two newcomers are battling Corey Hadnot II specifically for a starting job. But I feel like whatever role he plays, you're getting at least 20 to 25 minutes, if not more, per night from Hadnot. And yeah, Horizon to Big 12 is a big jump, but like the MAC to the Big 12, not unprecedented. Like, especially in this era, never been more guys transferring. We now have data that shows like, hey, it's not a guarantee that you jump and you're ready for that level. Like, plenty of guys wash out there, but also plenty of guys don't. And I think the staff's track record should give you at least some faith, acknowledging that you never know how a guy is going to fit until you actually see it on the court. But really liked Hadnot Bobby from basically the moment that I found out that the Cougs were connected to him.
Yeah, last year, he averaged 20 points a game last year. And the Cougs, one of the things that I really harped on a lot this past year, maybe a little too long, was the inability to get a bucket when you needed a bucket. Just when you have a 3-minute scoring drought and the other team's going on an 8-0 run and you need a bucket to just kind of get everyone back. Really feels like Hadnot's that kind of guy that you throw out there and he just goes, "Give me the ball. I'll be open. Don't worry about it. I'll make the bucket. Don't fear." And I really like, that you got Dedan Thomas, who is a undersized point guard who can get to the bucket and just say, "No, I'm getting to the bucket. I may be able to dip under a couple of bigs' arms and draw some contact and get a foul and get you the big bucket." And then you have Hadnot, who is just a pure bucket scorer who will just stand out there, shoot 36% from three, averaging 20 a game. The kind of guy who just says, "All right, time, it's over. Give me the ball. Pass me the ball here." And you have a guy who can attack the basket, and you brought a guy who can post up and take that kind of Emmanuel Sharp role for this team.
Yeah, can shoot from three. Wasn't the most efficient at that level. Would probably hope that he doesn't take 150 from deep playing for this team. Probably a bit less of a focus offensively at this level than you would be at the Horizon League, which doesn't mean that stuff doesn't translate. Wasn't an amazing free throw shooter, but was good at drawing fouls as well. Like, I think you're 3 for 3 among the guys who have signed or committed publicly to play for you at this moment, with Hadnot, Thomas, and Gillespie, guys who could do a better job at getting fouls on opponents. And again, like, is this going to be top 25 in the country in free throw rate this year? No, like, it doesn't need to be. But can you do it better than last season's team did? I would have a hard time envisioning them not being better, even if that means being the 200th best team. That means you're at least like less underwater there. You're at least somewhat more often getting an opponent's maybe more foul happy, better players in trouble, or just randomly getting a star guard with 2 or 3 fouls much earlier in the game than expected. Now you have that advantage of them having to sit that guy for an extended period of time. The advantage that we have seen U of H have to deal with, or disadvantage, I guess, from the Cougars' perspective, you might now get to do that a little bit more often to opponents, which I think was a nice little through line to all three of these players. We'll also mention, has not committed yet, but I would bet good money Bobby commits between now and when you and I sit in front of microphones getting record. Big man Braden East played the last 2 seasons at Lamar, went from barely playing 2 seasons ago as a freshman to leading the Southland Conference in rebounds per game in this most recent season, had 14 double-doubles, finished the season strong offensively, scored 10 or more points in the last 13 games he was on the court for Lamar, was second nationally in defensive rebounding percentage. That was something that really jumped out about him and Gillespie, both elite defensive rebounding guys. And again, you ask the question, like, how well does it translate to the Big 12? Maybe not 100%, but that was an area. It's weird to say U of H weak in a rebounding area. And it's not really new. Like, you've always been a much better offensive rebounding than a defensive rebounding team under Sampson. I don't expect that to radically change, but kind of like I was talking about free throw rate, maybe you go from where you were this season to if you're a little bit better there, because that was something we talked about the Illinois game. Illinois got a lot of second chances against you, and some of that's their size, but I think some of that's actually overrated. I think it was just you weren't terribly good at being a defensive rebounding team last year. I mean,
yeah, it happened to you all season.
172nd in the country. Like, that doesn't, that's not terrible. That's almost exactly in the middle. Which,
yeah, I think I mentioned it in probably every preview, was just like, this team can get to the offensive board. And I think it got better late in the season. So we kind of, I don't want to say ignored it, but we were kind of like, okay, it's kind of fixed. But it was certainly a problem, especially early on last year. Other teams being able to get the rebound, get the offensive rebound was a problem for us. And to your point, it popped up in the tournament. You saw Illinois able to get a bunch of I don't want to say a bunch, but enough second chances that it caused a headache for us. So
yeah, that's the exact right phrasing. Enough. They actually got under their season average, but it was enough with you also not making your baskets, not to bring up bad memories, to make your season.
Yeah, I mean, I will always say the reason why you lost that game was because of shooting, but if you cut their offensive rebounds in half, you don't necessarily lose that game. So I think it's very much a thing that should get better with just who you brought in the transfer market and who you've kept on this team.
Exactly. Back to Braden East for a second. I wouldn't think he's ready to take on the same level of role that Gillespie is, but you go into the season with Tugler and Gillespie starting, and then Arifan Diane and East coming off the bench. That's such an exciting group. Like, you've had some good big men group. Like, 2 seasons ago, you had Tugler, J1, and Javier Francis. I don't want to say this group is better than that group yet, because that group proved it on the court. This one's exciting as it is, hasn't. I'll just say this is a very exciting big man group. It's an exciting big man group even if you don't add East. Even though, again, gun to my head, I think you do. You add East to that, and then maybe next season with Gillespie and Tugler out of eligibility, maybe he's ready with Diane, to be the starting front court for you.
I love that.
So we'll see what happens with East, and very excited about those three. I'll mention this, Bobby. Quick update on one of the departures. Something actually you brought to my attention when it happened. We found out Isaiah Harwell is going to Gonzaga after departing the U of H program, I think now a couple weeks ago. And you pointed this out when you were the one who basically broke the news to me, because I was a lot out of pocket at the time. We both kind of got to be right about where he ended up. You believed he would end up at a notably good program. I think, is that fair to say?
Yeah. My thought was he was a freshman who was coming off a big ACL injury his senior year of high school. And yes, he didn't look great in a lot of the games and he started to lose some minutes, but I thought maybe you keep him a couple of years, you're doing all right.
And Sampson even said, like, Sampson talked about it. It was tough. Like, we really didn't have him practicing until fall practice started, just because of complications from the knee injury. Like, it wasn't the kid's fault. Like, he never got a chance to have a full off season in the way that, maybe Kingston Fleming's is fine regardless, but it certainly didn't hurt his development here to have hit the ground running and gotten a chance to really get familiar with how the staff does things. And give myself a little credit. I believe he needed to go down to the Mountain West, kind of new Pac-12 level as next stop. Gonzaga's new Pac-12 program that qualifies, and excited for Isaiah. He'll have a chance to hopefully have a full healthy offseason and maybe earn a starting spot on one of these sports' longest running, perennially very, very good programs.
Yeah, so I think it'll be interesting to kind of watch him next year from a distance, just to kind of see how he ends up doing. And it still tells you a little bit about Sampson's talent evaluation coming out of high school, right? Maybe he goes over there and kills it. That gives you a little bit of confidence, like, hey man, Sampson really does. He knows how to pick really good players. We've seen it, over and over again. And sometimes you need a little bit of scenery change as well, coming off the injury and having the struggles of not practicing and things like that. Get a little bit closer to home, get some of your people to love on you a little bit is very helpful, and you see it happen all the time when it comes to transferring.
Yeah, and where Isaiah's from, Pocatello, which is like in the southeast part of Washington, Spokane, isn't like a 1 hour drive, but I think other than Utah and BYU, probably the closest like major college program to where he lives is, unless you want to call Boise one, which I don't think that's an accurate one. It would be Gonzaga. So
Yep.
a lot closer for his family certainly to see him play at the Kennel than would be the Cougs. And I think we only wish the best for Isaiah in whatever his college career holds for him. While we're on the subject of hoops, we did have both a notable transfer out from the Cougar women's basketball program and the first member of the portal class, which will probably be a decent size transfer portal class for the women's basketball program as well. I'm going to talk about those two topics. Start with the departure. Jade Jones announced she was entering the transfer portal since we last recorded. I said almost verbatim last episode that if one of this past year's two freshman rotation players, Jones and Kayla King, entered the portal, it would be more notable to me than any of the veterans leaving, and thus this one's more notable. Bobby, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think if you gave this coaching staff a truth serum, if they could keep anybody, I think Jay Jones would certainly be up there. She played a really good amount. She was one of, I think, two freshmen who were real rotation players. Somebody who could put the ball in the bucket a little bit better than you saw a lot. Now, when your team goes 17 in conference or something like that,
Yep.
You don't cry too much when you lose a player off that team. But again, you'd rather not lose a freshman than anything, than let them go. You'd rather keep them than let them go. So yeah, I think this is kind of one of those truth serums. Everyone will be like, hey, they went, she left, she did her thing. You know, we hope she has lots of luck, but I do think there was an element of if you gave them truth serum, they'd be upset.
Yeah, probably rather have her than not. How you treat a roster loss of a team that went 7-23, like you said, 1-17 in Big 12 play. It's a bit different than how you treated off a more established program, really regardless of the sport, but would be disingenuous if I didn't reiterate that, in my opinion, this is a more notable departure from the program than any of the previous ones we've discussed this offseason. Found out yesterday she was committing to Cincy, the one team in that 1-17, which is a little surprising there. That they were admittedly a little better than the Cougars on the balance. Katina Merriweather, their head coach, did well at Memphis, obviously has a very tough job on her hands at Cincy, but is an alumna of the program. So kind of a long-term build there. All what Mitchell is doing. The more positive end of the ledger, though, we found out right before we recorded, I would say within an
15
hour
minutes,
or so, if that, of us sitting down in front of the microphones and talking, that Janiyah Williams, a point guard from Edmond, Oklahoma originally, and who just completed her freshman season for the University of Oregon program, would be the Cougs' first member of the portal class, coming with 3 years of eligibility remaining. Tell me if this is a crazy comparison, Bobby.
Mm-hmm.
So I had not very much time, but enough time, and both from you and some quick looking, was able to find out some about this most recent season for Williams at Oregon. I feel like it's a decent comp to Isaiah Harwell's season. Like, it's not perfect. Like, Williams was a very high-end recruit. I want to say number 53 in the country in the class of 2025. Had flashes, and I don't know if in the injury comp maybe where it falls apart, but wasn't really in the rotation down the stretch, but also did play enough, and with your recruiting pedigree, that I think it's an exciting ad. It's an ad where you have to look at maybe what they haven't done basketball wise yet, what they'll develop into in another year or two in college. But I'm always willing to gamble on a player who has that recruiting pedigree. It was at least good enough to get on the court for Oregon as a freshman, even if down the stretch her role isn't the biggest.
Yeah, I actually think that's a pretty good comp there. I think it kind of feels like you just did a trade, right? You gave up Jay Jones, and in return you got Janiyah Williams. two freshmen. It's not like you're losing anything in terms of eligibility or anything like that. Just kind of one of those things that caught my eye. I was like, and you look at their stats, they're kind of close. I think Jade played a little bit more to the point that you made, but yeah, it doesn't. This isn't one of those moves that makes you go, oh my God, we're suddenly gonna win. Be over 500 in Big 12 play, but it definitely makes you go, huh, there was some pedigree there.
It's an interesting start.
It's
It's intriguing. Like, okay, like good start, curious, because again, you didn't sign 9 freshmen, so like, you signed a few, but like you're gonna have to bring in some transfers to fill out the roster.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you this, I don't mind with where this roster is and this coaching staff. I don't mind bringing in younger transfers like this either.
Yep.
Right? Like with Sampson and the men's team, it's like, no, we're at a point where waiting 4 years and being good every 4 years developmentally, like this feels like one of those classes where you can bring in a bunch of sophomores, a bunch of upcoming sophomores, a bunch of upcoming juniors, and then be really good, not next year, but the year after. And the program starts to build. You can recruit off that. You get a little bit better next year. You recruit off that. And then year 3, you're really taking that big step with a bunch of seniors and juniors. And then you have, absolute studs waiting in the wings as underclassmen.
Yeah. And if Williams does well enough, that's more ammo for your staff in the next portal cycle. Like, hey, look at this player who was a really good recruit. Like we were able to get the best basketball out of her here. So I think, it only reinforces itself if you were evaluating correctly, which not that we doubt Coach Mitchell is still an if though, because you haven't yet seen it on the court.
Agreed.
I think a good start. I think we're both in agreement there. So at the end of spring football practices closing in, we're at the spring game itself being a loaded topic that we are not going to dig into tonight. You've listening to us long enough, you probably have a
know
rough
where
idea
we stand.
where we stand. Maybe I don't know. Maybe if we're feeling salty next week, we talk about. But this topic only for stuff we're really excited about. We decided kind of in the late spring football time of the year here that somewhere between the next few and several. I don't want to say several necessarily and commit us to 3 more if we don't have 3 topics that we're really interested to talk about like we are with this one. But at least for a few weeks here, talk about some of the stuff going into the coming season while we're in spring football here that excites us or is most noteworthy. And I don't think there's a more interesting storyline than what we're going to talk about tonight, your quarterback situation, where you're returning Connor Weigman off of certainly the best quarterback season we've had since Clayton Tune graduated. And of course, bringing in one of, if not the biggest recruits, or not the biggest recruit period in program history, in Keyshawn Henderson as the heir apparent at quarterback. We've never been in this exact situation before. There have been similar-ish ones in 2016. You had the established senior quarterback in Greg Ward Jr., De'Aaron King as a promising freshman recruit, though all respect to De'Aaron, wasn't in the stratosphere of Keyshawn as a high school player. And if you want to go way back in this one, Bobby, I know you remember this one, remembering that Robert Griffin III was at one point, younger Cougar fans might not believe this, was at one point a U of H commit when Art Browse was the head coach here, ended up ultimately following Browse to Baylor when he left U of H for that job after the 2007 season. And that's been one of those kind of crazy what ifs that's always interested me, because in that 2007 season, older Cougars like us will remember, redshirt freshman Case Keenum and Blake Joseph split reps for the entirety of that season, though in my opinion, by kind of the latter part of that season, Keenum had started to maybe establish himself as the more consistent of that two-headed quarterback situation. Then, of course, went on to have his own incredible record-setting college career off that redshirt freshman season. I mean, just an interesting what if, as the Cougs could have had the all-time NCAA passing yards leader and an eventual Heisman Trophy winner in the same quarterback room, though obviously Robert Griffin III never was actually in the Cougar program. Back to the topic at hand, though. Certainly the situation you have at present is an interesting one, an exciting one. And most programs out there don't have a situation like the Cougs, where there are both an established starting quarterback in the roster and a transcendent blue chip waiting in the wings. And the few programs that do have that general situation are almost entirely more muddied, more traditional power kind of programs than our beloved alma mater. Bobby, so many interesting sub stories within this. Give me your general thoughts, where you want to start on this.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I feel like I've been taking crazy pills for the last few months, ever since Keeson actually signed with us. Everyone's talking like he's gonna play a ton this year, and he's gonna be like, we're gonna have the dual
organically might disagree a little bit on that. Exciting. Continue.
And like, I think he's gonna play, but I would be shocked if you burn his red shirt this year. And the reason being is you have Connor. That's the thing that kills me is like, why would you pay Connor if you're not going to play Connor a lot this year? You have, you think of other 5-star quarterbacks and when they come in and what it looks like, there's usually not an all-conference contending quarterback on the roster when they come in, right? You think about, what was the guy at Michigan? I'm blanking on his name suddenly.
Bryce Underwood,
right? If Bryce Underwood comes in a year earlier, he's not starting. He's not playing a lot. It's simply just not that's not going to happen, right? Like, because Michigan had a quarterback who ended up leading them to a national title. Not saying that I think Connor Weigman's going to lead us to a national title or anything like that this year. But like, if there's a guy, it's very rare that a freshman comes in, unseats him, especially in this NIL era. Connor's going to be a senior. He's playing to Connor Weigman was a NFL prospect, like a high NFL prospect. He's trying to get back to that point where he can play in the future. So like, I see him getting used, but do you want to burn Henderson, Keeson's red shirt to put him in a couple of packages, like, and have him play, 10 games and play 6 snaps a game? I don't know. That just seems so odd to me. And I feel like everyone's ignoring that Connor Weigman's still here. Like, anytime I see this discourse, the thing we listen to, the podcast we listen to, they did like vibe check for how things feel. Connor Weigman did get mentioned one time. They're like, they got this all-star quarterback, the highest recruit in program history. And it's like, yes, and we want to play him and we hope he's really good. But like, it feels like a conversation had to have been had with Keeson leading into, like, there's no way he signs. And then they're like,
he's like, wait a minute, I can't believe they're starting the guy who started every game for them last year. I don't think he's not stupid. Like, he's aware of that, at least.
And they kept him. Like, if Connor transfers, it's like, oh yeah, well, obviously, right? But like, there's no spring transfer portal, right? So like, it would make sense if there was still a spring transfer portal. We get through spring and then you see Connor enter the portal or something like that. But I don't know. It just seems very odd to me that there's this discourse that like there's going to be split reps, and I just don't get it. If it is, I don't understand why we paid Connor to stay and use the NIL money on that.
I don't think this is as much a U of H fans think that Keyshawn's going to take 40-50% of the snaps here. I think there are some disagreement about how many quantifiable snaps like is worth it to have this guy burn his red shirt this season. But I think it's more outside the Cougar fan base and more the people who make up the various media entities where I think there's the biggest disconnect, in my opinion. And so what I'm going to say is more directed at the national, bigger picture college football media types who, in my opinion, have overlooked what a good returning starter Connor Weigman is in 2026 in favor of implying, maybe even some cases flat out saying there's going to be some kind of competition for this coming season's starting job between Weigman and Henderson. And that's kind of ignorant to how well Weigman did last season. Wasn't perfect. Objectively, there are at least 2 or 3 quarterbacks who will be hotter preseason picks for the all-conference team than Weigman. I think most notable, Noah Fafita at Arizona, and whether you agree with it or not, and I'm more with you than I'm not on the not agreeing with it, Bobby, but Brennan Sorsby at Tech is probably going to be
doo-doo from a butt.
But I mean, Connor Weigman, we're talking about a guy who had over 3,400 total yards, accounted for 36 touchdowns last season. I mean, that level of quarterback going into what will be his final college season, under no circumstances is losing his starting job to a freshman, even a freshman who is a transcendent recruit like Henderson is, without some obvious extenuating circumstances and injury, knock on wood, things of that nature. Like that's the only thing that's allowing the hypothetical I just described to happen. I will entertain scenarios where Henderson is playing a larger role than your average freshman non-starting quarterback. And that to me is actually the most interesting point of speculation here is, what does his role look like? Is it a 5 or 6 snaps a game thing, kind of like you were describing? Are you maybe even lining him up wide at receiver? Are you doing 2 quarterback sets possibly with those guys? I'm not saying you will or won't. I'm just kind of
Yeah.
We'll see off the exciting possibilities there. But I just want to note like what I just noted, because I've been surprised at the laziness of the people whose job it is to cover college football, just assuming, well, of course, U of H has this level of recruit that the program rarely gets, and, you know, honestly has never gotten at quarterback in the modern era, that Connor Weigman, coming off his most complete college season, is just going to be QB2 for his last season. It shouldn't pass the smell test, and not something I think on this point that 99% of U of H fans would disagree with, but was something that I think you and I both noted. I remember actually it was the last time I was in Houston. I was eating at the Hobby Panda Express, Bobby, and was reading the Athletics. They had this little, and it was an interesting concept. I think they did by conference, but like basically a paragraph about each team's quarterback situation post transfer portal window closing. And the one they did on U of H made it like almost seem like, okay, Keyshawn Henderson is coming in here to start in 2026. I was just like, what the fuck?
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
Yeah,
man.
I felt like I was taking crazy pills at that time too. But again,
look,
that's not U of H fan. That's maybe we could disagree on, hey, I think he's worth 15, 20 snaps a game while also lining him up out wide, while also doing a double quarterback thing, whatever, versus I think 5 or 6 or just not at all. But
yeah, it just seems so odd to me that like there's this assumption, and I will say I see it from Cougar fans, not as heavy as you do. I don't think the assumption is there that he's going to start or anything like that from Cougar fans, but there's a lot of talk of the fact that like Keyshawn's going to come in and split reps and he's going to take 30-40% of the quarterback reps, and I don't know, man. I don't see why. Again, I just don't see why you keep Connor. I'm not saying that I think that's necessarily a bad move if you do it. I think it's a bad move if you keep Connor Weigman and then you do that. Does that make sense? Like,
no, yeah.
I think if you bring him in and you let him start, I don't hate that. But use the NIL money, because it's not like Connor was cheap.
No,
a guy like Connor Weigman,
should he have been? Yeah.
No, a guy like Connor Weigman is picking his school if he wants to play next year. He gets the, outside of maybe like the top. You think Texas Tech wouldn't have opened the bag for him instead of Sorsby?
I can see it, yeah.
And so you paid him a good, and he knew Keyshawn was coming in as well. And so it probably cost you a little bit extra. You probably had to pay a little bit of a premium for Connor to deal with the shit he's going to have to deal with this fall whenever he throws one bad pass and everyone starts booing wanting Keyshawn. So like it may have cost you a premium. I don't understand why you bring Connor back if you're going to play Keyshawn. I don't get the rationale behind that.
I mean, more likely than not, I hope not. Obviously, if we won in Lubbock, it would be the funniest thing ever. And the high on that, I would be probably good for the rest of the college football season on that. But well, let's say we have, a 10 to 20 point loss in Lubbock in the early conference season. And there's going to be like a 95-page locked thread on Coug fans that just is titled like Henderson or something like that.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make U of H, I think, fans especially unique. You
buddy, if you think that doesn't happen at every, who's the most popular player on the field? Or
QB2, buddy.
Most popular player. QB2, always the most popular player.
But kind of like I said earlier, I think the most interesting question with Weigman, Henderson, U of H quarterbacking in 2026 is the speculation of what exactly his role is going to look like here. I mean, right around when he signed in the 2026 class, I was the opinion that he'd see a good amount of the field, but that the staff would still do everything possible to maintain his red shirt at 5 games with a bowl and then go into 2027 as the almost certain starter, as at that point only a redshirt freshman. And that's not exactly where my opinion is now, because the more I've thought about it, I think the less concerned I am about whether or not he goes into the following season as a redshirt freshman or sophomore, because if the kid's as good as advertised, and right now, no reason to doubt that, even if we haven't seen it yet, very good chance that he's done with college before he reaches 5 years in. So to me, kind of a moot point whether he does or doesn't redshirt this season. And again, he was in for spring practice along with a lot of your other top signees. See also Paris Melvin Jr. It's kind of an unanswerable question, which makes it a fun one to debate inherently, because you and I, chances are, if you're listening, none of us are on the coaching staff watching his reps and assessing that progress he's making on a daily basis now that he's mostly gone through his first full set of practices in a college program. Obviously, more offseason work to do, and there'll be plenty for the staff to chew on from your August two-a-days and subsequent practices to see how much is he picking up of the playbook, his film study habits, everything that goes into making the jump from being an elite high school quarterback to being an elite Division I quarterback for a power conference program. That's all unanswerable right now, because I think how Henderson does it, all of that is going to really determine what his role in 2026 looks like. If he really takes to it, I mean, I think you would agree, if he really takes to it and he's one of the most difference-making athletes you have outside of maybe Weigman and Amari Thomas, yeah, man, get the kid on the field any way you know how. Like, whether that's at quarterback or special packages or otherwise. I mean, knowing all that's unknowable here, the, I guess, known unknowns, to borrow a phrase from fucking Donald Rumsfeld, randomly enough, if you will. I mean, what do you think is the most likely outcome here? I have an idea. What do you think Keyshawn's role looks like in this coming season, knowing what we don't know?
What would I like, or what do I think? Because I think those are two different questions for me.
Both of them, whatever order you want to give me them.
Yeah, what I would like is I would like to see him play in non-conference games and develop. Because one of the things with Keyshawn when we signed him was, is he even a quarterback, right? And that was kind of the step everybody wanted.
I mean, that's what you got your foot in the door in, because you wanted to sign him as a quarterback.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big reasons why you got him, is you were one of the first schools to believe that he was a quarterback, right? But the quote unquote knock on him was that he was just a better athlete than everybody else on the field. And so he needed to learn how to play quarterback. In his senior year of high school, he absolutely did that. That was one of the things that you saw from a lot of the recruiting services was, I've never seen such a big 1 year jump from somebody learning how to play quarterback, going from being an athlete that can play that you just want the ball in his hands, right? And into guy who knows how to read the field and can make the throws and do all that. That was the big thing for him. So I still am of the belief that he made that jump in high school, but he's not going to be able to out-athlete everybody in college. That's just not how it works, right? Especially as a freshman. So I don't know if just getting the ball in his hands is necessarily what you can do with him, right? Give it to Keyshawn and he'll just make guys miss. That's not how it works in college, right? Unless you were an elite track star in college is when you start to see that. So, what I think will end up happening is he will play a good amount in games in which we're up big, right? Second halves of games when you go in and you're up 28-3 or 28-7, and you just put him in for the second half. And I think you do that probably 3 games this year. Not that I have the schedule, I can rattle that off the top of my head, but I think with the transfer class and what you're going to surround this team with, I think you probably got 3 of those games on the schedule, where you can put him in. Now the question becomes, do you burn the red shirt, right, by playing him in 2 more? maybe if I think if you see the opportunity to do it by you're playing better than you thought, and you have a big win, and you're blowing somebody out, sometimes games get away from teams, something like that. Maybe you play him in 5 games and you burn that red shirt. I think I've kind of come around a little bit after some thinking about it, that like I would love to keep him here for 5 years, right? I would love to have him be here for 5, but yeah, maybe he's not here. I don't think it's because he's going to necessarily transfer out. It seems like U of H has got their whatchamacallit kind of all in a line here, but yeah, I think it's all. I think we'll see him in 5 or 6 games. I think the one thing I don't want to see is him just going like, let's let's put him in for a goal line set where he run past and then you burn him for that game. Like, I really don't want to see that. If you're gonna put him in, like, put him in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's where I am too. If he's taking fewer than like 75 snaps, but you're burning the red shirt or something, like, which I'm not saying the staff would do, but like that to me would be an unacceptable hypothetical. Like, if you're gonna burn this guy's red shirt, fine, but do it because you believe he can actually play like a significant amount of snaps
Yeah.
on the field. No, I think we agree on a lot more than we don't with this one. Again, worth reiterating what an exciting situation this is at quarterback.
It's crazy.
There are many football programs, more moneyed ones than ours, who barely have one quarterback they're excited about, much less 2, which is the situation we are most certainly in right now. I mean, just 3 years ago, we were on here trying to talk ourselves into something along the lines of, hey, maybe the first Big 12 season or Dana won't be so bad, to where we are now. It's coming off of a 10-win season with a coach who clearly knows what he's doing, is capable of building a consistent winner in a much tougher conference than we've been in. Whatever comes of this coming season, when it comes to Keyshawn and Connor Weigman's respective seasons, it's an exciting place to be. And I wanted to kind of close my thoughts with at least one more appreciation of how good we all have it at one of the most important positions in the field.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, you look at, to your point, where we were 2 or 3 years ago, and you're like, oh, it's nice to be able to talk about, man, both these guys are going to be really good, versus, man, who's going to be good enough?
We'll just be honest, 2 seasons ago, like, I might be watching the worst quarterbacking I've ever watched. And I've watched at that point, that was my 19th season, really dedicated watching UH football. I'm like, I don't think I've ever seen quarterback play this bad. Go from that to 2 years later to, oh yeah, we have established starter and a 5-star freshman. Yeah, pretty good.
And not just an established starter, but like a guy who you could make the argument could be, he won't be, because there's, Bear Bachmeier and other guys in the conference. You could make an argument that Connor is first or second team all Big 12 quarterback.
You could tell me that he will be, like, in the preseason. I don't think he will be because of the guys you mentioned and I mentioned, but you could tell me that he's first or second team if he has a good 2026, especially coming off. I think people finally seeing, like, okay, this guy can be healthy and a positive first team for a full season, which had been the big question in his career prior to 2025. So even with spring practices finishing this week, Bobby and I will do at least a few more of these in the next few episodes and talk through what we think are the most interesting storylines, position battles, and what have you coming out of spring ball and going into the football season to come. So we'll leave the spring sports tonight appropriately with the end of the Cougar Tennis regular season, which we'll cover as we always do in this latest edition of Cougar Tennis Corner. So the Cougar Tennis program closed their regular season with decisive 4-0 wins over WVU and Cincy on Friday and Sunday, respectively. In the weekend opener in Morgantown, the Cougs doubles lineup switch up really helped you get off to a good start. Eva Seppa and Valeria Croatina started the year on court 2, have been mostly playing on court 3 recently, had their most decisive win of the conference season, defeating the WVU pairing 6-0. Your steadiest pairing, Sophie Schouten and Chemsdaw Zagluli, struggled a bit, uncharacteristic in court 1. They lost that match 6-4, but Lisa Morosova and Petya Drame shortly after that closed out the doubles point with their own 6-4 win to give the Cougs the 1-0 lead going to singles. And from there, like it's pretty much been when the Cougs have faced the lower half of the Big 12 programs, you really dominated in singles on the lower courts. Sophie got her 15th win of the season in singles, was the first Cougar off the court, winning her match convincingly, 6-2, 6-4, put the Cougs ahead 2-0. Eva Seppa won her match on court 4, 6-4, 6-3. Shortly after Sophie's went final, extended the Cougar lead 2-3-0, and then Petya clinched the match, winning 6-3, 6-3 on court 5 to give the Cougs the 4-0 win. I mean, if you want to pick nits from this match, your courts 1 through 3 singles players all lost their opening sets. Mentioned did lose on doubles court 1 during that portion of the match, but we'll say right before the match was called, Valeria, one of the players who lost on court 3, she had forced a third set. Chems was one game away from doing exactly the same on court 2, and it was early enough in the second set with Lisa that she absolutely could have taken that set if that one got to completion as well and forced a third there. I mean, that's holds true for Cincy as well. Neither of these opponents this weekend were teams that should have made you seriously sweat, but out of the two, West Virginia was the one, I wouldn't say concerned me, but gave me the closest feeling to concern of, okay, which of these teams could possibly give you a really bad loss at the end of the regular season, because West Virginia had taken points off some of the better Big 12 teams they'd faced earlier this season. You know, maybe this match gets to 2-1, 2-2 for whatever reason, and you really start sweating. This team that's really struggled all season starts to believe all the ingredients of an upset kind of there, and you never let that opponent really believe that they were going to win this match, which they can only be a good thing there. And then on Sunday, the Cougs closed out the regular season at Cincy. Weirdly enough, Bobby, we've shared comps with Cincy now for, I believe, 13 years. Not including 4 or 5 years. I think we overlapped in CUSA, maybe 7 or 8 years in CUSA 1.0 back in the day. Only your second time ever playing tennis at the University of Cincinnati. The first one was a 4-0 loss during your terrible first Big 12 season 2 years ago. Like the West Virginia match, you did take a somewhat surprising loss on one of the doubles courts. Lisa and Petya lost 6-2 on court 2, right after Valeria and Eva had won 6-2 on court 3. But Chems and Sophie did redeem their loss to WVU with a dramatic win. Was tied at 4-4 at one point. They broke serve, went up 5-4, and then finished the set off with Chems serving to put the Cougs up 1-0 going to singles. Very little drama there. Valeria was the first Coug off the court. She got her 14th win of the spring via a dominant 6-1, 6-2 win over Sarah Watanabe. Noting her specifically, but she was actually the player who Eva beat last season when the Cougs clinched their first ever Big 12 win. Faced her on court 3. Eva put the Cougs up 3-0 shortly after. She won 6-0, 6-4. And Sophie got her 16th win of the spring. I want to say maybe only her first or second match there where she's clinched, because she's usually winning and winning like first or second off the court. It's rare that's come down to Sophie, just because Sophie's usually out there cheering on her teammates after winning. But she clinched the final regular season win, I think kind of appropriately, getting her 16th win of the spring single season. Just an eye-popping 16-1 record this spring season for her.
That's crazy.
Yeah, something I thought was cool also, I told you about this already, so you're aware of it. Gabby Cortez was in the lineup on court 6, which allowed Petya Drame to rest the singles portion of the match. Gabby's been a mainstay in this program. This is her 4th year with Cougar Tennis. Ultimate team player. You will not find somebody in this athletic department who's a student athlete who supports her teammates more. Really cool she got to be in the lineup for a critical Big 12 match. I mean, it's not easy to spend most of the season cheering on your teammates because, quite frankly, is a much deeper roster than it's been the last few seasons. But there are few Cougar athletes since we started doing this podcast who I feel more positive about than Gabby, because of the support she gives her teammates. And it was a cool thing to see her actually get on the court and actually fight it out there in the final Big 12 match this season with her teammates. And just want to mention that before we left the Cincy game entirely.
Yeah, just a shout out to Gabby here. I've been to 1 or 2 matches a year, would you say, Sam? Since last year, this year, I think I've been right in that kind of range. There's been nobody who is louder in supporting her teammates and rallying everybody. When you go out there, you see the huddle is gathered around her, and she's playing doubles.
The tennis,
right?
yeah, that's her yelling. The tennis corner intro, that's her leading the team before the UC Irvine match. If you've been wondering the gist of that audio,
like there's sometimes sometimes we always talk about, the elite athlete and the stars of the team and things like that. Gabby is, you had mentioned this when talking about like senior day on social media. There's nobody who comes up to me and says thank you for coming faster than Gabby. Like, Gabby will break the huddle. If you're at a match, when I was at a match, Gabby, when she wasn't playing, if she wasn't down on the courts, she would wave at you, come up, talk to you, see how you're doing, see, hey, why are you here? Like, nobody ever comes to our stuff. Like, why? And like, thank you so much for coming. I walked her to the bus, basically, because where the bus was parked is where I was parked. And like, she asked me how it was going. Oh man, kind of sucks. It's kind of cold. We were hoping it was a little warmer. Yeah, this storm, it's supposed to snow, we heard. That's why we had to move. Like, really engaged, just a great representation of Cougar athletics, and just such a cool thing. Stuck around when the previous regime left. Probably had an opportunity to transfer somewhere, maybe even if it was dropped down a level or something like that. But decided to stick around. Kept her just a linchpin of support and excitement around that program.
Yeah, someone who had to go through some hard seasons to get here.
Yeah.
And never, like, clearly, if you're around her for 5 minutes, like, never lost her joy for tennis, which is so cool. Like we can't imagine, like, you and I have things we enjoy. You and I have craft we're committed to, including not limited to this podcast, but we haven't had to deal with like the level of difficulty like the first couple seasons here, even last season too, even as the team like improving. Yeah. Like, he's on 4-16 last season. Like, even as showed little signs, like, you had to get through a lot of losing to get there. But
and when you talk about putting your personal and your ego aside, like,
yes,
there's nobody who will scream louder for her teammates than Gabby. It's very refreshing to see. If you would have, if you're one of the cynical people about college sports now and they're all in it for the money and they only do this, like, go just find a way to get to Orlando for Big 12. Sorry to steal your thunder there, Sam.
No.
But just find a way to just interact with Gabby, and you'll see that, like, there's still college athletes, if you are of that belief, that are there for the education and there just to be a college athlete, and how cool they think it is.
Yeah, that would give everything for their teammates. And maybe you could also consider joining me in the possibility this team plays in the NCAA postseason. Not there yet, cool. Not guaranteed yet, but certainly a more real possibility than it's ever been since we've done a podcast. 2 dominant wins from the past weekend, but I think really important ones, because it means now that you could say the regular season's over and you do not have anything close to, in your 23 matches played, conference or otherwise, a bad loss, and have an 8-5 record in one of the best tennis conferences in the country. Noted this last week, I believe, but the Big 12 championships this season changed format, so only the top 10 teams in the conference standings are participating. So any future hypothetical loss, U of H, a team that qualified for that championship, would be coming against a team that almost certainly is another NCAA tournament level opponent. You did check in at number 41 in the latest ITA rankings, and on one hand, I find it kind of annoying to see the team drop 5 spots after winning 2 matches away from home and not dropping a single point, or being really in danger of dropping a single point in any of those matches. But I do understand, on the other hand, that regardless of sport, if you beat the worst teams in your conference, you're probably going to best hold ground in any situation where it's like a ranking or metric, and you're at risk to drop no matter what you do, because you're not getting a lot of credit for beating 2 opponents who had combined for 2 Big 12 wins. Bias to the Cougs here, but I mean, again, for example, Tech beat 2 ranked teams. Probably should have gotten a bigger bump than the Cougs in the last week. And speaking of Tech, we did get confirmation on Monday the Cougs will be opening the Big 12 tournament tomorrow morning as the 7 seed, 9 a.m., facing Texas Tech, 10 seed, and the winner of that match will face 2 seed Arizona on Thursday. Cougs and Lady Raiders did face off earlier this season. Was an extremely close 4-3 loss, where the match came down to a second set tiebreaker that Petya Drame ultimately lost while playing on singles court 5. The Raiders did struggle a bit away from home relative to how good they were in Lubbock, though, like I said, they are coming off ranked home wins over TCU and Baylor to close the regular season. Would be nice to get a little revenge for that close loss. I think get one more resume win over a likely NCAA tournament level opponent. I'll definitely be up bright and early watching that one tomorrow, hoping to see this program's first ever win in the Big 12 tennis postseason.
It'd be so cool, man. Like just one of those things that even somebody who's a casual tennis follower, um, just I'm really excited for. But I'll let you go ahead and preview the match. I have a question for it.
No, I pretty much say I kept it quick here just because it's probably going to be done by the time people are listening here. But I will say they have a really good doubles pairing. You actually saw them in the fall season, Sophie and Chems, when they qualified for ITA sectionals. I believe that was, might be misremembering the name of that event, but you played in College Station. You lost to Dimitri Chengo and Haley Murphy, really good doubles pairing who you likely see on court one in this one. That's the challenge. Like you were going to have a hard time getting the doubles point here. You need to play really your best on court one to keep this opponent who's really good from just doing what they've done to most of the opponents they've seen this year and taking advantage of courts 2 and 3. If you go in with a 1-0 lead, you feel pretty good because you did well against Tech and singles last time, but good opponent. They're number 31 in the country for a reason. I think ASU in the second round after this, it's going to be a little more difficult, but I think a hypothetical win over Tech would make me speak less cautiously. We'll say here next time if we're talking about the Cougs in the NCAA tournament.
So that kind of ties into my question a little bit here. Like you said, it'll make you feel a little less speak a little less cautiously. Do you think there is a way in which you lose and you make the tournament? I think you do believe that is the case. My question is there a way that is there a result that can happen that would get you not in the tournament?
I mean, maybe fractionally. If you lose 0-4, looks a little worse then. But I gotta be honest. I don't think U of H's resume is getting that deep of a dive. I think there's kind of look, all right, like ITA rankings, best wins, best losses, and
they check most of the boxes. It's not,
which isn't to say again. I'm the fall 2021 soccer season, Bobby, where I swore like that team should have been in the NCAA tournament again. It helps. Unlike that team, you get a bit more of a bump from being a Big 12 opponent versus when you were in the American, which I think helps. But this is not me guaranteeing. This is not me saying, "Oh yeah, if we lose, we're 100% making it." Making the tournament. I mean, I can acknowledge why I've learned a lot. I know more than the average person maybe about college tennis, but I can tell you what I don't know, and what I don't know is much about the NCAA tournament because this program hasn't really done much intersection with that in recent years.
Yeah, no, totally get it. I was just curious what you thought maybe that was. So thanks for answering that for me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, buddy. So we'll stick with the country club sports here as the women's golf team wrapped its regular season, which we will now discuss in this latest edition of Cougar Golf Corner.
Well, welcome to Golf Corner. We had that big tournament that happened in Augusta, not the men's team, but the actual Masters. I'm not going to dive into that. If you watched it, you watched it. If not, do want to shout out my co-host here, who's not a massive golf guy, but he sent me a picture of a pimento cheeseburger this past weekend, and gotta say, great idea. Didn't even think about it. Told one of my really good friends. One of the things with Masters is you always want to, with the Masters tournament, is you always want to make, you kind of make some homages to it. I made egg salad. He did pimento cheese, egg salad, all these different things. He did pulled pork because they have that. And I mentioned the pimento cheeseburger to him, and he was like, "Great idea. Didn't even think about that. That sounds. I'm in." So round of applause, golf clap.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks for that one. A great idea. They look delicious. Even though I'm not a big pimento cheese guy, if I was, I could see how good that would be.
I could do it like once a year. If I had to have this as a topping all the time, and not really with
look,
it. But
let me tell you, if I'm at Augusta National, I'm having a pimento cheese sandwich. So, but that's neither here nor there. Just had to give you a shout out there, buddy. I thought you did a phenomenal job with that. So
I appreciate you.
The women's team was off. They are headed to Big 12 championships next week. I will give a full preview next week, Sam, on the Big 12 championships and what to kind of expect from the Cougs there. The men did travel to Chapel Hill, North Carolina to participate in the Tar Heel Intercollegiate. I'll just say the Cougs probably could have had a better week. Not trying to be too mean here, but no one on the team played well. Some played better than the others, but it wasn't good, Sam. It wasn't good. Your top finisher was Chi-Chun Chin, who finished in 38th place. Not great. That's not exactly the result you wanted. You finished, Sam. We finished 50 shots back of the lead. Which to say North Carolina, the number 11th ranked team in the country, finished 20 shots ahead of second place. So there's a definite tier there, but
still 30 shots in there.
Yeah. Not that wasn't great there, bud. So not gonna harp on this too much. This is kind of one of those events where you look at it, you just wad up the piece of paper, you throw it out and go, yep. Sometimes that happens. It happens. So I'm not gonna harp on it too much. Next in a couple of weeks, they will actually be playing in Kansas at one of the best golf courses in the country for Big 12 championships, Prairie Dunes. Not that I won't preview that when it comes up as well. So not anything too exciting, nothing I want to dive into here on the men's team. Just sometimes you just have a bad week. That's golf. It happens. Crumble up the scorecard, storm it in the trash. Look forward to Big 12s coming up.
Yeah, you kind of answered the question I had back in my mind. It's like, do you kind of just do the golf equivalent of burn the tape, which I guess burn the scorecard?
Yeah,
burn the tees on this one, because it's a notoriously volatile sport. As much as I've learned about it.
And look, Grant Doggett was 2 over heading into the round, into the final round. Shot 5 over there to finish 7 over. Chi-Chun Chin 6 over in round 3 when he was 2 under. He was in the top. He was a top 20 golfer heading into the final round. He carded a triple bogey on 8. Like, sometimes you hit it in the water or whatever it is, and you have 2 or 3 bad holes, and next thing you know, because like you look at like Chi-Chun Chin's scorecard, right? 3 birdies, 4 bogeys, a double, and a triple. The double and the triple come on back-to-back holes. Like, you had a bad hole 8. It gets in your head a little bit. You have a bad hole 9. You shoot 5 over on 2 holes. Like, that's hard to overcome. And yes, you would love Chi-Chun Chin to just have a stronger mental game. But like, you hit a couple of bad shots, and next thing you know, your rounds come unraveled, and that unravels your whole tournament. He still went out, shot 3 birdies. If he pars those 2 holes, he's 1 over on the round. Like, that's respectable. But you carded a lot of doubles and triples. I think every golfer except for Brian Hiskey, who shot 18 over on the week, had a double or higher on a hole in the final round. Like, you just played a bad round of golf. Like, it happens. You know what I mean? And then, like I said, we had the Masters this week, and, just Sam, kind of real quick.
Yep.
We had people who went to this university to
one extremely notable person.
Like one who is usually one of the more popular players.
Still teeing off at his age too.
Yeah, and arguably one of the best golfers of all time, who still plays. And Sam, how many tweets, Instagram posts, literally anything do you think they did about, I don't know, that player? And even saying like, hey, check it out, here's his tee time, this is kind of cool.
Or just 0. Oh, by the way, the voice of the Masters as a vocal. You could have, like, Jim, I didn't even think about this till now. We've discussed more, like, oh yeah, you didn't mention Fred Couples. You mentioned Fuzzy Zeller, even though Fuzzy Zeller wasn't U of H especially long, but like Fred Couples alone, like one of the best golfers of our lifetime, and a Cougar. Yeah. And you just didn't mention it all, which I want to be clear. Not that you've said this, is not directed toward, like, Jonathan Dismuke's job is not to set U of H's social media strategy here. It's to get
it,
you in tournaments. Like what is U of H doing department? And like, it's not like there's not awareness. Like, you did Masters promotion stuff for the baseball series. Yeah.
Yes.
Women's golf coach Lydia Lasprilla did the little chip, the chip thing for the first pitch on, I believe, Thursday night of the baseball series. So you're aware enough that the Masters is going to do that, but not aware enough to do like any social about two of the biggest guys who are U of H alums.
And then we wonder why they don't come back. We wonder why, like, oh, our alumni never come back. You look at like Dream last year at the Final Four, not getting on the court and like security physically holding him back and all this kind of, like, how does he not get a pass?
I mean, that just says, that might be an NCAA Alamo Dome thing. I don't want to put that entirely on U of H.
For sure. But at some point it does kind of become your responsibility as U of H. Like, hey, that's Hakeem Olajuwon. He's allowed anywhere in this building he wants to go. Like, we will give him whatever credential he needs. What form do I need to fill out? That guy can get on the court whenever he wants to. And yes, it's an NCAA Final Four thing. It's up to U of H to make sure that doesn't happen. You have a Masters winner. You have a green. You have the history of this golf program. 16 national titles. You have, like you said, Sam, the voice of the Masters. He has words trademarked. Hello, friends is trademarked. Like, he's called some of the most iconic stuff. You think Jim Nantz wouldn't find a way to get you approved to put some of his most iconic calls somewhere on social media?
Yeah. He loves the school. It's not just like, he happened to go here. He like, I was there in person and I got goosebumps from it when he gave a speech about how much he loved this university when they put that little voice of the March Madness thing up at Fertitta. Now against Kansas 2 years ago.
It's just, I don't understand how you don't have a tweet that just says, good luck, Freddie Couples in the Masters this
excited
year.
To see you at Jim Nantz. Excited to see you call this year at Augusta.
Yeah. One of our favorite traditions, voice of the Masters, Jim Nantz, welcoming friends to Augusta.
And maybe like a picture where he's like holding the mic in his present day, and then a picture of him when he was younger back in his U of H days.
When he played golf for U of H.
Well, Bobby, one thing you can be sure about with this, whoever's responsible for it has a fucking banger excuse lined up as to why they couldn't have possibly done that. Because that's all a lot of people connected with U of H do. They have a great excuse as to why they didn't do that, or why they couldn't have done that, or why it's actually someone else's fault, including an element of the fans that they couldn't do that. Don't be too negative about it, but if you've been following this program long enough, you aren't really disagreeing with me, probably.
Yeah, and like, look, I like the work Eddie is doing, and it seems like he's interested in fan feedback and getting people engaged. And
would agree.
I think he's done. I remember at the bowl game, I thanked Eddie. I said, Eddie, great job on this. You did a good job getting us here, all that. Like, I just saw him in passing. And he actually shook my hand and he goes, no, thank you for being here. That's what's important. Like, he's really good about engaging with the fans and doing that kind of stuff that we haven't seen from an AD in a very long time, since I'd argue Dave Maggard was here when we were students, right? Dave loved being around us. Like, Dave shook our hands, did the claw thing. Like, shout out to Dave Maggard. But like,
Uncle Dave. I didn't think Uncle Dave would get a mention, but hell yeah, Uncle Dave's getting
but like,
shout out
there
here.
seems to be something in this athletics department that no one seems to be able to fix, where things like this just don't happen. One of our biggest jokes, Sam, between you and I is there is no organization better. There's no organization that should want to take your money that is worse at taking your money than the University of Houston. And they're so bad at doing things to engage everybody on it. Like, it's just like, I didn't look, right? I didn't look. You really think the University of Texas didn't tweet something out about all of their people this year?
Jordan Spieth, Scotty Scheffler. I'm sure they did. I'm sure they did.
And look, it's easy to talk about Scotty Scheffler when he's finishing second, right? When he's the number one golfer in the world. I get that. But like, you have to do something. Tech did something for Ludwig Oberg. They tweeted out, "Hey, always love to see you in green," or "We'd love to see."
OSU, as I say, OSU, I'm sure did something for what's his name, the other Scandinavian guy whose name I'm spacing on right now.
Yes. I know exactly what you're talking about, and it's blanking on me too. But it's just, what are we like? And you just say, "Hey, Jim, we love seeing you in red, but you look even better in green," or just like literally anything.
Yep.
The Bayou Rays. There's something. There's got to be something.
Victor Hovland, by the way. Victor Hovland,
thank you. And like, if you're gonna say, I kept wanting to say Matthew Wolf, who was a completely different OSU golfer. But like, and I knew it wasn't right. But like, and you said it. Not that you need Dismuke to do that, right? I don't want Jonathan Dismuke to do it. The fact that it might fall under Jonathan Dismuke is a problem.
Yeah,
it's a problem. Hell, give the responsibility to a player at this point. Tell Grant, "Hey, bud, Thursday before we leave for the tournament."
How much do you know about Canva?
like I don't care who does it. Just somebody has to do it.
Just another missed opportunity. Another missed opportunity to do something.
Do something. I mean, we saw Rice have cups that were branded. Rice with the Texas, with the UNT did it, and they put the flag in San Marcos. It was a little bit of like a, really, what are you doing here? But like, they tried. Like, they put the effort in. Try. That's all I'm asking. If you fail, you fail. I'm just asking that you try.
90 minutes in, and mercifully, I don't think we have too much to kick around with baseball and softball, other than just, I think it's kind of wild that you went 4-2, which we talked about. We're like, oh, maybe softball's fair as a pitching, and baseball won 2 or 3 to place that objectively it's hard to win 2 or 3 at this year. Bobby, psych. Football pulled Lucy, Charlie Brown, me. You went 0-6 this weekend. You got swept at home by a BYU team that, you might have seen me tweet this, had only won a Big 12 road series once in now 2.5-ish seasons, had never swept anyone away from home in Big 12 play. Did it to you, managed 5 runs in 27 innings against the worst pitching staff coming into the weekend in the Big 12, and then softball at BYU. I mean, if you score 25 runs in 21 innings of softball, I mean, surely you picked up at least one win from that, right, Bobby?
No, that's because you gave up 33.
Because you gave up 33. And I mean, there's some poor fielding mixed in there, but I mean, it's just like Groundhog Day. We're back to talking about a softball team that is historically bad at pitching, and we're back to talking about a baseball team that gives you the faintest glimpses of, they competed with this team. Maybe they're like, hey, they took 2 or 3 unexpectedly at Tech on the road, and you're 2 and basically you have played 4 weekend series against teams with some level of a pulse. UTRGV in non-conference play, even though they're a little worse than they were last year, and 3 Big 12 opponents: K-State, Baylor, and most recent BYU. And in those 4 series, you are 2-10. If you were just making it part of your plan to go out to Schrader Park a couple times a weekend, like we used to do back in our younger days when we lived in or around Houston, you might not have seen a single win if you went on the wrong days. Like, there's a good chance out of those 12 games, if you went to like 7 or 8 of them, they might be 0-7, 0-8. And I'll just say this. And you're losing badly tonight to A&M. It's midweek. That's not really that important in the grand scheme of things. But I think the merciful thing to do, my genuine opinion, Bobby, fire Todd Whitting now. Or let him know, hey, we're moving on.
Yeah.
Give him a chance to go in. Like, obviously, like losing your job stinks. Like, I've gotten laid off. I've lost my job. You've lost your job. Like, if you've been an adult long enough, you've probably lost your job, and it sucks. And I try not to lose the human side of it. And Todd Whitting seems like a good dude, but I mean, you're dead last in the Big 12. Give the guy a chance to decide what his next role will be. Truly signal to the baseball coaching market, hey, this is an opening. We're coming. And, give Matt Rada or Chesborough or whoever on staff is the assistant head coach right now, give him a month or so experience and the head man's job. It can't be, even though they'll probably be an assistant, whatever their next gig is, can't be bad for you to get a month under your belt as an interim. I think just at this point, it's over, man. Yeah, you have about a month of season to play, but it's over. Not as negative on softball, obviously. First year with Chrissy Schoonmaker, and we at least had the idea that, hey, you brought back a lot of your pitching to maybe evaluate them. Evaluation done. If you're serious about being better at pitching next year, at most you'll probably only have like one of the regular pitchers who pitched this year.
Yep, I agree.
Hate to end it on a downer, but I think
it is what it is.
We're tight on time, and also just I don't believe the bat and ball sports subjects merited
any fun.
7 or 8. Yeah, not fun. I wish we were more positive, but I mean it's not an 0-6 weekend, and you're 2-25 combined in Big 12 play on weekends that aren't Easter weekend. If I'm sitting here and telling you no, it's gonna get better, like this is the positives I saw, and you're 97 minutes in, you're like, this guy's bullshitting me.
Yes.
And if nothing else, I'm not going to bullshit you, the wonderful listeners of this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with everything you've said. That is it for this episode of the Scott and Holman podcast. You've gotten, 90 plus minutes of Cougar Talk. We hope you have enjoyed it. If you have any feedback for us, you can find us on social media at SH Podcast on Twitter. If you are looking for us on Blue Sky, you can find us at podcast.bsky.social. If email is more of your jam, you can email us at shpodcast@gmail.com. And if you really liked what you heard and you want to throw a couple of dollars at Sam and I, $5 a month, get you some premium content, go ahead and find us on Patreon, patreon.com/shpodcast. So I think I covered it all, Sam. What do we always say here, bud?
Go Cougs.
All right. Go Cougs! Let's go!